Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Daniela, and today we'll continue with Mindhunter, this time episode 5 of the first season. In the last episode, Bill and Holden met with another infamous serial killer, Monty. They had a discussion about, his upbringing and his feelings while doing the murders. They also have a murder case on their hands somewhere in Pennsylvania. A woman was killed but then tortured, mutilated actually. They're trying to figure out who did it. Ask some questions to the man that called the police, and he seems like a suspect. They also received more funding from different associations for their research. Apparently, a lot of people are interested in what they do, so that's great. Anyway, as usual, I got something to drink. The episode is ready to start, so without further ado, let's do this. In the last episode, he was in a house, and he was being all suspicious in a way, but at the same time, he was kind of doing his job, but it was very convenient. It was interesting that he looked at the toys, at the kid toys that were on the ground.
His given name is Benjamin Barnwright, but everybody calls him Benji. Came back to town just like I told you he would.
Benji was home watching TV the night Beverly Jean was killed.
That's what he told us, and I believe him. Benjamin is definitely most people. He's worked the same job ever since high school, bagging groceries at the A&P.
Works at the A&P? Does he have access to a delivery vehicle?
Nope, only works the floor.
Oh, Benjamin is her boyfriend.
How long were you with her?
18 months.
So this was pretty serious.
We just got engaged. I knew she was it when I met her.
How'd you know?
We saw things the same way. Got this place for Beverly Jean.
She asked you to move?
I want us to have some privacy.
Where were you before?
A few blocks over on Chestnut.
With your family?
With my mom.
Was your mother a disciplinarian?
You mean strict?
Yeah. She cracked the whip?
She just cried.
You and Beverly Jean ever fight? Perfectly normal for a young couple.
Sometimes.
What'd you fight about?
Just stupid stuff. What movie to go to.
You got this place for her. Did she like it?
She wanted to make it pretty when she moved in.
When was that going to be?
After the wedding.
Traditional, huh?
Yeah. That was just to keep it proper.
Was she saving herself for marriage?
Well, maybe she didn't want to wait. Girls like fooling around just as much as boys.
Beverly Jean was my first, but she was nice. It's awful what was done to her.
What about the tears?
I didn't buy them.
You think he was faking?
Seemed a bit much.
Given what he's been through,
It sure got us out of there.
he's obviously a mama's boy.
Already knows how to play one.
And look at him. You really think he could easily move a body?
Now without bursting into tears.
Let the man cry in peace. If he was for real.
She teased him a lot. He pretended not to enjoy it, but I know he did.
Benjamin told us the two of them argued sometimes.
I never heard them argue. Benjamin is soft, you know?
What was he like as a kid?
He was always sensitive. But when his father ran off, he started to cry a lot. Wet the bed, he wouldn't leave the house.
That must have been difficult.
I had to leave the kids on their own a lot. Rose helped out, but she was just so little. But then Rose met Frank and he moved in with us. They just had a baby, you know?
Your first grandchild? Congratulations.
People talked about Frank back then, but I never listened to all that. I loved him from the first time I met him. I still do.
Did Benjamin feel the same way?
Well, he started to go out, became friends with Frank. Frank protected him. He wouldn't let anyone near Rose. Well, they got married at 18, so Rose must have been 15, 16 at the time. We were so happy that Rose and Frank were having a baby, and then Benjamin loses his love in such a horrible way.
I keep wondering why Beverly was with him in the first place.
She might have liked that he was older, easy to talk to. He's sensitive.
I bet Beverly had poor old Pipsqueak Benji wrapped around her golden triangle.
Maybe she wanted a nice guy with a steady income who loved her. I've never seen a guy cry like that. Bill was skeptical.
But you believed him.
It looked real.
Well, how did it feel? I mean, were you moved? Did you want to comfort him?
I wanted him to stop. It felt wrong. Benjamin was blubbering like a baby, but it didn't seem vulnerable. It felt hostile.
You know, psychopaths are extremely skilled at imitating human emotions. It's how they manipulate other people or how they gain power over their environment. They have emotions. They just don't believe that other people have them. Or, more specifically, they don't believe that other people have interior lives.
Look at where the perpetrator went. Hair, breasts, vagina, all symbols of her sexual power. Disfiguring her reproductive organs was a way to neutralize her.
If something happened and Benjamin snapped, could feelings of impotence explain his rage? Could it explain him going back 4 days later to cut her up, like you said, as an attempt to assert control?
Possibly. The killer mutilates her after death, and he usually commits sexual acts after death as well.
To make up for his sense of inadequacy while she was still alive.
It's like there's two different presentations of this crime scene.
Why were you drinking so much?
I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be wild and crazy.
Why?
I was tired of always thinking. Don't you get tired of thinking?
No.
And it made it easier to sleep with people.
How many people did you sleep with?
Let's not.
A lot?
What difference does that make?
Just curious.
And judgmental.
5? 10?
This is getting tedious.
10?
Holden, I'm not doing this.
Okasik looked into Frank Janderman. Apparently in high school, he was sent to a psychiatric hospital for taking a monkey wrench to a girl.
Frank Janderman.
Rose's husband.
Beverly Jean Shaw was close with your family, or simply looking for a little background.
She wasn't that close.
Well, she was about to marry your brother-in-law.
And so to date, I didn't really spend a whole lot of time with him.
So you and Benjamin aren't close?
It's just close shit that's like women.
Mrs. Barnwright said you looked out for him.
Oh, yeah, he's a shrimp.
And he's your brother-in-law. So you would help him if he needed it.
Yep.
How'd you land yourself in Warren State Psychiatric Hospital?
This girl freaked out on me. Came after me with the wrench. I tried to get it out of her hand and it swung back and hit her in the face. And then all this shit came raining down on me.
They sent you to a mental institution.
That was bullshit. I had to go to the bug house as part of the plea.
You did a plea deal?
Why not go to court? Tell them what you told us.
My lawyer said I'd never win against a sweet girl with a broken nose.
You said they hadn't set a date for the wedding.
It was loose.
They were engaged, weren't they?
Benji thought they were. She let him call her his girlfriend.
He got that apartment for her.
Yeah, that was the big plan, get her to move in.
Was Beverly even sleeping with him?
Now and again.
You think she'd, been around?
I'd say she was, hoping.
Benjamin see it that way too?
I don't know if he didn't get it or he didn't want to.
Beverly had the upper hand in the relationship. It made Benjamin feel jealous by seeing other men. If Benjamin felt sexually powerless, he might lash out with the kind of anger we see in this crime. It sounded to us like she wanted to keep her options open.
Did Frank say that?
He said a lot of things.
Because he was jealous. He was always asking when she was coming around, always talking to her like she was his girlfriend.
What do you mean?
Hey, hun. Hey, babe. Hey, sweetheart. Go get me a beer. He was always getting her to sit on his lap.
Did she want to sit on his lap?
Well, she had to, or it would have been rude.
Did he try to have sex with her?
No, it didn't go that far.
He told us he was interested.
She loved me.
But she wasn't exactly saving herself for marriage. What was she doing at a bar?
Having a drink?
Was she alone with a girlfriend?
What would that tell us?
A single woman in a bar.
A single woman might go alone to a bar just to have a drink.
What about her? Is she trying to pick someone up?
Probably.
Why, because she's by herself?
Yeah.
That's an assumption.
Say she is looking for someone. Does that make her easy?
Is she looking for a husband or a one-night stand?
Does the difference change your perception of her? Sure. Why?
Well, changes whether I'd be interested in her.
How old were you when you met Frank?
16.
You know about the incident with Frank in high school.
It was before I met him.
Did you ever talk with him about it?
He told me it was some kind of accident.
bruises.
Did she intend to marry him?
He was working on her.
Was she seeing other men?
Benjamin thought she might be.
Benjamin told you this?
He said he thought she was giving him the runaround, done up for other guys.
Done up how? Dressing provocatively? Painting her nails? Wearing perfume?
Getting her hair done. Benji called us that night and asked Frank to come over. So Frank left.
How long was he gone?
Called after 2 or 3 hours, asked me to come over there too.
What time was this?
10 or 11. But I told him I was tired. I said to bring cleaning supplies. Drove over, let myself in. Frank was in the living room. He told me not to get upset.
Was he upset?
He was calm. He told me something bad had happened. Frank said he's fine, but he's done something.
Benjamin did something.
Yes. He said he got mad at Beverly Jean. Frank said Benjamin hit her. I asked if she was okay. Frank said, we gotta help Benjamin out of this. We gotta stick together or he's gonna get in trouble. I said, I want to see him. He said, okay. Beverly Jean is in there too. He had his head in his hands. He was crying. There is blood everywhere. And then I see Beverly Jean in the bathtub, dead. He had her top on, but no panties. I said, Benji, what have you done? He shook his head. He didn't want to look at me.
Was she face up, face down?
Face up.
Did you notice any wounds?
I couldn't tell there was a lot of blood. Then Frank brought in a tarp, spread it on the floor. Then he asked me to go get cleaning supplies. When I came back, they had already rolled her up, so they took her out to Frank's truck and drove off. There was a knife in the tub.
What'd you do with it?
I rinsed it off.
Did you see Frank or Benjamin again that night?
No. Frank came home early the next morning.
Who killed her?
I don't know.
So that was a thing. That was the 5th episode of Mindhunter. In this episode, they focus more on the murder in Pennsylvania, and by the end, it seemed like they got the culprit. It started with them going to Benjamin, the boyfriend slash fiancé of Beverly Jean. Apparently he bought a place for him and his girlfriend to stay. You know, he already knew what happened to her from the police officer. And at the first glance, he seemed devastated by her loss. He made all these big plans for them to living in a place of their own, getting married, and all that beautiful things. He also seemed very emotional, which in essence is not a bad thing at all. Women and men, especially men, are allowed to be emotional and express their feelings. It's way better, and I personally appreciate it way more than just keeping for themselves, bottling their feelings. No matter what those feelings are, bottling them and hiding them is never a good thing. In this society, men are supposed to be these rocks that never show any emotions no matter what, because they are men and they have to, act a certain way, which in my opinion is totally wrong. It was, crying, which again is nothing wrong with that. What was wrong was that he was putting this facade kind of, not knowing what happened to her, um, feeling sorry for her and himself, and just kind of, I mean, he was crying, but I think in his mind, by him crying would make the others feel kind of understanding of him, like like Bill and Holden said that, psychopaths, or it was Wendy that said that psychopaths are able and pretty well of imitating emotions. And I think maybe Benjamin thought that in that moment he was supposed to cry and show emotions, because that would be the proper kind of answer to the situation. His girlfriend was more in on the, I don't know, maybe, I don't think open relationship is the right word, because I don't think he or she would necessarily cheat on him. But at the same time, I don't think she saw Benjamin as a future husband, as a future person to spend her whole life with. Benjamin seemed to be person that didn't have much experience with, I guess, women. At the same time, he saw her because, she was a woman, in his eyes, a beautiful woman that, somehow agreed to be his girlfriend. And I don't think he sees himself as this amazing person that had many options. And for him, having a girlfriend like her meant everything. She was kind of adoring her and accepting her. I'm pretty sure he was bothered by it because, it ended how the way it ended. But he didn't have the, I don't know, the courage to say anything. He planned his whole life with her without even talking with her, getting to an agreement, like, does she wants this or not. And because he made this scenario in his head, like, he totally believed that it will happen. Like, for him it was no kind of turning back from that. That's his life, that's gonna be his life with her. And I think he got to a point where he just snapped, cut her breasts off, stabbing, doing that incision to her private parts. He thought that those parts, the breast, the private parts, were the things that she used to attract other men. Maybe the poor girl wasn't even, cheating on him. Maybe she was just more of an outgoing person. He made this scenario in his head because he had this obsession with her, and he saw more than it actually was. Because, in the last episode, apparently she was at the bar alone, and the guy that found her body started talking with her, and she immediately rejected him. So maybe she wasn't even cheating, Maybe she was more, an extrovert. She liked going to the bars by herself, enjoying a drink, the company of other people, not necessarily, wanting a sexual or a romantic relationship. Man, that was that. I really enjoyed this episode. It was quite interesting. Can't wait to see the next one. But for now, this is all I have to say. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy. See you next time. Bye.